But each of them are, 5 of them are going to be completed, 5 of them are not. I'm going to talk about why I think they will or will not complete some of them one by one. First, we're talking about Nahiri. Conveniently, Wizards has also given us these what-if images. So you kind of see what would look like if they were frictionized. Now, one thing that's going to help in this whole process of discovering which of these will or will not be frictionized is how legitimate that looks like as an actual thing that we need to worry about. And in Nahiri's case, it doesn't look like something that I would be super worried about. What I do think happens is she becomes one of the main things that helps fight them. Through that gains the loyalty of a lot of Planeswalkers, being able to start the seeds of her becoming one of the next big Magic villains by creating this new basic military. So one of the things she was trying to do at the end of Zendikar was re-rise the core empire, basically, and I think that especially if these planar trees leave the world more connected than they've ever been, or the multiverse more connected than they ever have, she's set up to be a leader that is a little bit more, if you've seen Avatar, Legend of Korra, like Kihira, right? Like very militaristic, almost fascist in a way, but like much more controlling of the world, wanting it to go her way or no way. And I think that removes the storyline, making it Phyrexian. Plus, if you look at the art, there's nothing special about that. Doesn't look like a Planeswalker Phyrexian as a character that I'd be afraid of. If you want to see the next one, hit the comments. I'm going to do the second one immediately, so there'll be at least 2 before I go to bed. This is part 2 of Will They, Won't They be completed in Phyrexia. They will be 1. There are 10 Planeswalkers in this set. 9 of them have the possibility of being Phyrexianized. We already know Koth isn't. I just did a video about Nahiri and why I think that she won't be completed. But today we're going to talk about one I do think is going to be completed. One of the things that benefits this process is that we got a Will They, Won't They. This is a alternative universe artwork for each of them that we're going to get on a Planeswalker card. Some of these are the ones that they're going to be completed, but some of them are not. And you can kind of look at the different design aesthetics of each of the different artwork to see, like, oh, does this look like a thing that actually is going to happen? Plus, you have the narrative ability of telling what the story is going to look like to see if they're going to be completed. And today we're going to be talking about Nissa, who I think is going to be completed. For a narrative reason, I think actually she's the big MacGuffin that Elishnor needs to succeed. I think by them capturing Nissa, they'll be able to overextend the sap they stole from the tree in Kaldheim, the World Tree, to be able to make that this big, devastating thing that allows them to travel to any plane in the multiverse. I think Nissa is a key part of that happening, and if they don't, they need a tree functioning Planeswalker to do it, and I think Nissa is the one to do it. Plus, if you look at the artwork here, you can see how much more detailed this artwork is, not just in the sense that it's like individually detailed, because that has a little bit to do with the artist, but more that there's like intricate parts that are telling a story that feel like they're actually what's going to happen. Her growing something that is built out of these rocky spine-like features is what the tree looks like that's about to invade every plane in the multiverse. So I think this is the big win. I think there's going to be other characters that get captured, but I think this is the one that allows the Phyrexians basically to win in this set. So Phyrexia All Will Be One spoilers have begun, and we're getting confirmation that there are going to be 10 different Planeswalkers in the set. Of the 10, 5 of these will be completed. We do know for a fact that Koth will not be completed because we've gotten his card already, but we don't know the other ones. Please comment below with who you think is going to be completed. Will it be Jace? Will it be Vraska? Will they be romantically completed together? Are we going to get a red-white Planeswalker and Luca? Are we going to get one in Nahiri? Is Nissa going to be completed to help build a giant tree? Tyvar for elf reasons and also tree-related reasons? Are we going to get Kaido and or the Emperor and or one of them so the other one gets mad about it? Are we going to get a completed Kaya so that Ashiok can be fought off for Elishnor? Favorite theory so far, though, is that this card was previewed for Alchemy and could just be the list of the 5 completed walkers. Nissa, Vraska, the Wanderer, Kaya, and Tyvar. Luca edition. For those who don't know, there are going to be 10 Planeswalkers in the new set, and 5 of them will be completed by the Phyrexians, meaning they'll turn evil robot people. This is a series where I'm going to explain which ones I think will and why and all that stuff. And this guy, Luca, definitely seems like he's being Phyrexianized. First off, and these are, each Planeswalker that is in this set in general is getting an alternate version where you get to see like if they would be Phyrexianized, what it would look like. So we don't know if the guess. We don't get to see all of the different styles of what they will look like. And I'm basing some of these on how realistic or specific these artworks look. Luca specifically has a lot of weird features that we don't know what that is. Why would those be included if he wasn't going to be Phyrexianized? Also, story-wise, Urbrask, who's the Red Praetor, has kind of decided to rebel against the Phyrexians, so Elishnorn is actively looking for a red representative to be a little bit more of a leader there, and Lucas just already has Phyrexia vibes. He's like a survival of the fittest hunter kind of guy, who but also doesn't care about the people that work for it. It's like he's just already a Phyrexian. The last piece of info is actually color balance. So if you look here, there are really only 3 planeswalkers that could be red. And as we mentioned, you feel like they're going to be prioritizing a red one. On top of that, we know that the other mono red one, Koth, is definitely not being Phyrexianized. We already have his planeswalker. He's not getting completed. So if Koth is out, and Elishnorn is looking for a red person to fulfill the role of Urbrask, there's Luca's the best one there. Luca does sometimes lean into white, but only because the animals he finds and trains are white, not him himself being a red-white planeswalker. Nahiri, who is red-white, but way more hard, leans white with some red splashiness to her. Seems like an odd choice to be the white pure mage. Also, just from a perspective, Elishnorn would compete with Nahiri. Nahiri would be a threat to Elishnorn within her ability to rule those people. So I actually think Nahiri's a hard lock for not. I went over that in one of the previous videos, but just continuing that thought. Luca, I'm sorry, but you're next to be completed. Also, if you just look at this artwork, if you weren't told that this was Luca, you wouldn't know it's Luca. Nothing about it screams that character, which to me means that when you see this in artwork later on, it's going to be a much more like Luca feeling character. And the reason you can't really tell here is because it's the real artwork. This is actually just what Luca is going to look like, which makes more sense to me. You'll know that this is Luca because you see Luca in other positions in this set looking like this versus someone like Nahiri, which like is very distinctly just Nahiri with some robot features on her. Stupid sexy Jace. Yes, Jace the Mind Sculptor, the main character of Magic. Last time anyone who wasn't paying attention checked. Just blue mage extraordinaire. And if you're wondering, Chandra's the new main character of Magic. She's the main character. But back to Jace. So also as part of this kind of series, there is a series of artwork showing each of the different planeswalkers in the set and what they look like if they were to be completed. 5 of them are red herrings. 5 of them are just what we're going to see. And something that's interesting about it is if you look at the artwork, some of them look a little bit more well thought out, actual story beat pieces, and other ones are just like, oh, well, it would be really cool if this character looked like a Phyrexian. What is that? And Jace is a weird one. Specifically because he is either stabbing himself in the heart or pulling this sword out of his heart with Luxior. Luxior is the sword that the last angel on New Capenna gave Elsbeth. New Capenna, a city famous for its angels being able to defeat the Phyrexians. So, from that perspective, this is really specific. Too specific to not either be real, or at least Jace is going to have Luxior for some reason. Now, I do think it's pretty cool. It's pretty tragic. It looks like he's either killing himself with the sword or he has some ability to consume it. Also, just all of the Bleach vibes. Now that I think about it, Jace has been every big 3 character. He's been a pirate, he's cloned himself, and now he's sticking a sword through his chest. So another interesting fact about Jace possibly being completed is that most of his storylines have kind of wrapped up. He's no longer the Guildpacker in Ravnica. Nicol Bolas has been locked up. The Gatewatch is kind of no longer in his hands. The Eldrazi have also been defeated. He was kind of a central piece to those stories, but not really the Phyrexian one. And with the Phyrexian story ending, there's not a lot of big things that Jace has to do. The one last thing is his relationship with Vraska, one of the other characters slated to maybe be completed and probably the next character I do in part 5. That whole romance that started on Ixalan is one of the best stories told in Magic, so I definitely highly recommend reading it. But they are on and off again in love with each other. It's great. And of the 10 characters, there are 2 kind of pseudo-couples. We have the Wanderer and Kaido, and we have Jace and Vraska. A hard, fast rule to me is that these can't have similar things happen to them. The worst case scenario from a storytelling perspective is like for 2 of them to be completed and then like their 2 significant others being worried about it. It's so redundant. So my theory is that 2 of them will be completed together. Which brings us to Magic's new power couple, the completed Jace and Vraska. Now, I do think one of them will be completed and the other one will get completed either trying to save them or just because they want to join them. It'd be really cool to see like a romantic completed relationship and have this vibe. Previously on Will They or Won't They become a Phyrexian Planeswalker edition? For those who don't know, we are going to new just regular Phyrexia now, and there will be 10 Planeswalkers. 5 of these characters will become Phyrexians. And this is a series where I talk about story reasons where that might not happen or it will happen. Plus we've gotten some cool artwork, so let's go into it. Today we were talking about Vraska, Queen of the Golgari, green-black mage, and stone cold badass. It's because of statues. She makes statues. Gorgon looks at you, turns you to stone, and for those who don't know, there is a series of different manga artwork showing alternate universes or correct universes of how each of the different characters of these 10 could be completed as Phyrexians, regardless if they do or do not. But there's hints in them, because some of these just look like, oh, that would be cool. But then some of them are weird and have specific information or like a lot more developed character designs that feels like it's part of a style guide because they're actually completed. For instance, Luca doesn't look like Luca, so he's probably being Phyrexianized. Now with this art, it's really interesting. It's very detailed. You have a lot of interesting features. A Gorgon already kind of fits into the Phyrexian aesthetic, so I do think that isn't really hard to extrapolate from, but she has different beast monsters around her. But I don't think there's a lot of clues from here. I think this can go either way. I don't think it's over the top in a way that makes it silly, or anything in here is so specific that makes it obvious that she's actually being completed. Now, one thing to consider is that color pie matters here. We for sure know that Koth, for instance, is not going to be completed. We've seen his Planeswalker card. It does make Luca more likely a candidate beyond the other reasons because he's the only other mono red option here. Mihiri being red-white. But the green-black section is very thick. Nissa, who I already think is going to be a walker, though I think that can be mono green. Tyvar, who is a green-black elf planeswalker, and Vraska. Honestly, my prediction is all 3 of them are completed, but that might be just a lot of black-green. So that is a point away from Vraska being completed. Another piece of fact, and I talked about in the Jace video before this, is that there are 2 couples here. There's the Wanderer Emperor, and then you have Kaido, who are like childhood best friends, and like will they, won't they. And then you have Vraska and Jace, who are actively dating. And if Magic was good at telling stories, which I have to believe they are, you're not going to have these 2 couple situations end up in the same way. You don't want both like Vraska and Kaido to be completed and Jason the Emperor to be sad about it in the exact same way. So you can do one of them is completed, one isn't, and the other one have both of them completed or neither of them completed. But if you watch the Jace video, you know where I think this is going to go. I think Vraska is being completed because I think Jace is being completed, and I think we have Magic's new power couple. I do think that there's a really interesting dynamic to show what a like relationship power dynamic is within the Phyrexian kind of ethos. A like Queen of the Damned, Team Rocket, we complete each other dynamic is something that I think is really fascinating and has never been played up within the Phyrexian side of the story, which I think was a cool new thing to do here. And just great vibes. All right, so the question is, what do I feel about a Planeswalker getting completed, but like keeping their positive ideology as a completed Planeswalker? And I felt like it does let me talk a little bit of what I think the end game for all of this could be. There's a lot of conversations going on about, oh, yes, a bunch of these are going to be Phyrexianized, but there's a few ways that's been established that you can de-Phyrexianize characters, so they're all going to come back and none of it's going to have any ramifications. Which I think would suck. I think that would be very bad storytelling. I think one of the worst parts of One Piece, a thing that I love, is that often characters that die don't stay dead. And I do think that Magic is in the middle of a transition from a Planeswalker-focused story to an all-characters-focused story, and the Phyrexians' great plan will end with all bunch of characters being able to travel every plane to their whim, allowing them to be parts of stories in different planes. But to your original point, I think we're going to get 3 to 4 different characters that stay Phyrexian at the end of it, and the rest are going to die in the war. We're going to get one that gets detransitioned back to regular, and they are going to be the 7 of 9. We're going to get another character that was just very quickly Phyrexianized, but then is going to become unphyrexianized, so they're going to, like, boing flip. The 7 of 9 character is going to have a lot more of, like, they did some terrible things. I think they're going to be a big feature to that villainy, and so they're going to have to emotionally deal with those terrible things they did. And then I think it's possible that 1 to 2 characters, and personally I hope it's Jason Vraska, don't die, but stay Phyrexian villains moving forward, and kind of the Phyrexian torch moving past the story. We've had Emrakul stuck in a moon. We've had Nicol Bolas stuck in the meditation realm. Wizards hasn't done a good job of just completely killing their villains and completely destroying the Phyrexians forever. I think would be a mistake, and I think it would be a really cool thing for Jace, for instance, to just be the face of Phyrexia moving forward, and maybe the infection part of Phyrexia goes away, right? Like, that's the thing that they defeat in this whole story, is they get rid of the corruption piece, but they still have these people that are trying to create this army. And I think that's the end game. I think that's, after all is said and done, in regards to Phyrexia, what I think this is all leading to. Welcome to part 8 of Will They or Won't They Become a Phyrexia? And today, our contestants, 10 of them are going into the set. All will be one Phyrexia, and only 5 will be exiting, not as completed Planeswalkers. I have done 7 of these. This is video number 8. Where basically I'm going to look at the different cool information and clues that we have from the story and out of the story to see which of these are going to be completed and decide, and ask you for you to decide. And today we're going to be talking about the Wandering Emperor. Surprisingly not Emrakul. Still maybe Merit Liege though. But for those who don't know, each of the different Planeswalkers have gotten an alternate manga version of their artwork where they are completed. Even if they don't get completed in the story, they got a completed version in this manga artwork style. What's cool about it is it actually gives you a lot of clues on if you think it is real or isn't. A lot of them have more design put into them that are just like very obvious, like, oh, this is just a cool version of them that they're completed, or like, oh, why do they have these things? What features are these? Why do they have these? They're probably completed. Because otherwise, where do these story beats come from? And so we get to the Wandering Emperor. And it actually brings me back to the Emrakul reference. She has the Emrakul head. She has Emrakul's head in her artwork. She's not being completed. They wouldn't make her character an actual Emrakul reference. That would be so silly. Also, just like from a storytelling perspective, it wouldn't make sense. They're setting up her to be one of the main characters moving forward. She has this really cool storyline involving Kamigawa in general. She's a great warrior that'd be fighting against the Phyrexians as a lead character. It would be very surprising. I guess there's the argument, because Elsbeth exists, that she would be the white Planeswalker that's evil against Elsbeth's good version of that, but that's also just what Ajani is doing, so I don't need that. Also, weirdly, she's using a sword here, and her normal weapon is a whip, which is just a small complaint. And there's not a lot beyond that, so it feels really to me that this is just a really fun reference to the fact that everyone thought she was Emrakul for a very long time. The fact that she has like the Emrakul wing head coral thing going on with the split in the middle, and it looks like her body with all the fabric is like tentacles coming out of it, is just a really cool reference, but I don't think she's being completed. I do think though that Kaido could be completed, and that's going to be a big motivating feature to her. Her having to fight Kaido is a really cool concept. I do think my hope is neither of them are completed. I think that like if Jason Brasker are completed, especially like having them as the antithesis to that is a cool thing. But literally the main argument I have for her being completed is that there's not another, she's the only mono white option here. For some reason, Jace has Luxior, which is real suspicious. I want to know what happened to Elsbeth. I hope she's okay. Do not post leaks. I know that 3 of the walkers have been leaked on who they are. I have not read them. This is before that. And don't post them. I will block you. And welcome back to Will They or Won't They Become a Completed Planeswalker? In today's series, we're going over all 10 Planeswalkers that are in Phyrexia. All will be one. 5 of them are going to be completed. This is part 7 of a series of me going over each of them. We are talking about Kaido. And additionally, for those who don't know, each of the different completed walkers are getting cool alternate art ones, so we don't know which ones are completed or not, but we do know what they're going to look like, and there's hints. And Kaido is, to me, the hardest. I can't tell if this is for sure just like one of the sickest designs and really well inspired spider ninja with a little pet panda, which makes me sad that they're Phyrexianized as a like concept. It's like the amount of effort to come up with something this creative, I think, is a sign that he is going to be completed. As a character, he also is new enough and popular enough that I think it will hurt, and it has ties to other characters that will be a motivating factor. And parts of the storyline leading up to this do lead to reasons why him being completed makes sense. For instance, that he was around Tamio when she was completed, and the Phyrexians know he's a known quantity and might be after him, and he has information and stuff that they want. Also, his little pet, it's the Spark Kami, which is sad. But don't worry, we have one right here. Now, he is part of one of the two kind of couples. Jace and Vraska are obviously in a relationship, and him and the Wandering Emperor are like childhood best friends, will they and won't they, kind of relationship situation. And so him being Phyrexianized is extremely strong motivation for the Emperor to want to keep fighting, even though she already wants that, but, keep going down this path. I don't think that both of them will be Phyrexianized. I think that's not what, I think Vraska and Jace could be. I don't think those will, though. The other interesting feature here is like black and blue mana is like an odd concept here. Jace is the only other blue mage really in the group. So if Jace and him both are completely, that's two blue mages or neither. As far as black goes, there's no mono black character. So he does have that kind of space as a blue black character that could kind of fulfill that. So personally, I think he's being completed. I do think though that he is going to be the 7 of 9 of these characters. For those who don't know, the Phyrexians are based on the Borg from Star Trek. That's a very similar villain type of concept. And in I think it's the third show, don't quote me on Star Trek information, a character 7 of 9 was a person who was brought back from being a Phyrexian. They were dealing with the fact that they did such terrible things, but they're able to be healed. They still have parts of the Borg parts, and so they're like healing from that. And I think that is the role Kaido will play. He will come back from this, but it'll be damaging, and a lot of his story will be dealing with the fact that he was a Phyrexian at one point and the terrible things he did, alongside his relationship with the Emperor. Welcome to our final episode of Will They or Won't They Become a Phyrexian? We have 10 contestants all entering the Phyrexia. All will be one set. 5 of them will walk away safe. 5 of them will be completed. And this is the last of those to discuss. I think they won't be, will they be, etc. be completed. And we were talking about Kaya. And as we've discussed before, part of the way we're able to kind of come about this is that each of the different planeswalkers gets an alternate art version of themselves of what would happen if they're completed in a manga style. Now, some of it's not alternate, some of it's just actually is what happened, and that's the clue, because some of this artwork just like has a lot of details that why would that exist unless this was actually happening, and some of it has weird details that is just a cool reference or meme. I'm looking at you, Wandering Emrakul. And that brings us to Kaya. I personally don't think it will be Kaya. First off, what's going on is a little bit generic. She does have a cool target on her face. It has mad Bleach vibes, which I really, really, really love. But it's just the Phyrexian logo as a target kind of combo, which isn't a thing that I'm super. It's cool. I just don't like. There's nothing happening in this artwork that's like, oh man, Kaya's definitely the one who's gonna get completed. But also for the Bleach fans, just like really good Lil Barrow vibes, who's the ex-Sternritter. We haven't met them in the 1,000-Year Blood War yet. Some mild spoilers, but just like sick. But let's talk about reasons she could be completed. First off, her design is very, very, very cool. And it doesn't seem like it's over the top, and I can see it being very useful. She also has a specific power suite that makes her probably pretty good at fighting Ashiok, which Elish Norn specifically is worried about Ashiok. So being able to kill ghost things could be helpful here. Also, if Nahiri and the Wandering Emperor, neither of them get completed, she's the only white-aligned planeswalker available of the ones we've discussed. And unless the Chibi theory is true and Sorin gets completed, she's the only Orzhov-colored combo that's really available. If Vraska does get completed, it is a little redundant because then we have 2 leaders of Ravnica, 3 if you include Jace. I think my issues beyond anything else also is that Kaya just has been set up to be this leader of the Gatewatch, and her getting taken out, but like not having actually taken over yet. She's being very featured, but not quite there yet. And her just being killed off at this point seems like a lot of wasted effort to establish her the way that they have. And not in a way that feels like there's enough of an emotional connection to feel lost there. Like the other characters mentioned all have things that will build off of it. Versus Kaya, who also kind of feels like a BS thing for her to be completed because her ability is to be intangible. And how do you complete someone who is unable to be touched? But that is the last of the series. I have now covered all 10. Who do you think is going to be completed? Who do you not think is going to be completed? Let me know if you want to know more content, and like and follow and subscribe. All right, here's an interesting thing with the fact that Nahiri is in this set. Now, this isn't based on if she's going to be complete or not, or will she? I actually think she probably won't be completed, partially for what I'm about to go over. Nahiri is not a good guy. Since being locked in the Hell Vault, and debatably before that, she's a villain character. I mean, first off, she was genocidal maniac that summoned Emrakul to Innistrad, killing arguably millions of people and turning the another millions of people into spaghetti. She has also spent a significant amount of her time since then trying to rebuild the core empire, which sounds like it's going to result in a lot of people on Zendikar dying. Nissa's not for it, and Nissa generally just likes things being alive. So, if she's normally a villain, why do we think she's going to be a good guy in this story? Now, I don't actually think she's going to become a Phyrexian. I think if I was Elesh Norn, I wouldn't want to give her status or power in my Phyrexian army, because Nahiri would usurp Elesh Norn like in a second. Nahiri gets completed, Elesh Norn is on the chopping block because she will be replaced. Mirrodin / Phyrexian is a place known for the home of some of the most powerful equipment ever. Stone forges are known to find those equipment. Nahiri is the original Stoneforge. I think Nahiri is going to find a sick weapon that is going to lead to her being able to resurrect the core empire, and with all of the different planes being connected moving forward, theoretically, it allows her to be the next big bad of Magic. Like, imagine Nahiri combining all of the swords of X and Y's into one mega sword of X and Y, or something along those lines, and just using that to destroy planes or as her own personal core empire Death Star. The alternative is that she does such a good job at fighting the Phyrexians that between her and Chandra there's a split of all the different planeswalkers going to one side or the other, but them falling Nahiri is not necessarily like a great thing. She reminds me a lot of Emma Frost in the X-Men comics, who is often not morally the most positive character. And I can totally see her running off with a group of planeswalkers now following her after her decidedly much more cutthroat vision on how to defeat the Phyrexians that maybe goes against Chandra's more we'll work together version and starting her own squad. But then having that squad do some pretty dastardly things to gain power and, mono white villain stuff. What's the story of why everyone hates Luca? Does he abuse animals? Yes, that's it. There you go. Basic vibe is that he's a bonder that communes with animals, but then doesn't care about them and uses them as weapons and just kind of sends them to their death. So Phyrexian All will be one spoilers based on leaks. So if you don't want to know who gets completed and who doesn't, then hit that favorite button. Come back later. We don't know that the core group that's going to be Phyrexianized in Phyrexia All That Will Be One includes Nahiri, Jace, Vraska, Nissa, and Luca. And then we also know that Tybalt's been completed. There's a lot of fun things about making content about all of that in the future. But there are a few fun things that are easy to notice. One, both of the main planeswalkers from Zendikar will now have been completed. The next is the entire squad responsible for putting Emrakul in the moon is now completed. Nissa, Tamio, Jace, they're all completed. They're the ones that know how to get Emrakul out. And Nahiri is the one that put her there in the first place. So that doesn't seem like it could be bad. So a lot of stuff has come out today, but we've got an official card and completion of Luca. And, good. Fuck that guy. Didn't like him anyways. When Wizards said that there would be 5 completed walkers in the new set Magic the Gathering Phyrexia All Will Be One, they seem to have left out the key piece of information that doesn't mean other planeswalkers haven't been completed in the meantime. Sorry or congratulations, Tybalt fans? Seems painful, but in a good way. Alright, let's talk the ramifications of the fact that Nahiri has been completed. Because this is a bigger get than any of the other planeswalkers currently got. That we know of, she is the only old walker that has been grabbed. She also is single-handedly responsible for, trapping the Eldrazi the first time around, as well as luring Emrakul to Innistrad the second time around. She is also kind of, doesn't like being told what to do. I honestly believe that she could end up being one of the largest mistakes for Elesh Norn to have completed. In the most recent story, one of the first 2 stories on the first day of the stories coming out, we read a whole thing about how the angels and the other characters are starting to question the orthodoxy of Elesh Norn. Now, that was always true from the other colors, but the white characters are also starting to have a little bit more self-actualization. And Nahiri has never been a character to take shit from anyone. Not to mention, she is also an artificer, so she has more of an intimate knowledge of how machines work and what you can do to them compared to characters like Alice Norton, who are relatively more recently born. I do love in the Magic Gathering story that right now, every character, when they react to just Nahiri's vibe, is like, oh yes, you are just better than me. If you wanted to, you could just cut me in half. I might not like you, but I have to respect you because holy shit. She then later cracks like half of an entire planar plate in half. Just like drops an entire war that's happening on the Dross plets into the Basilica that Elish Norton runs. You're gonna complete me? Fuck your house, Elish Norton. Alright, I'm going to be the first to admit that I have historically thought Nissa was boring, other than specifically when she was dating Chandra and Wizards ruined that. But if Nissa, the face of green magic for basically 8 years and original member of the Gatewatch, is completed off-screen with her final moments being as a side character to a fucking Lucas story, I riot. I'll take everything back I said about this story. Now what I hope happens, because we apparently have 2 additional side stories coming out tomorrow. I'm hoping that Nissa is hunted by Vornaclex, Luca, and Glissa as they toy with her, as they lead her down paths that eventually get her to Norn. And in Norn's presence, another character seemingly lacking from her own set, Norn monologues about how Nissa was the key piece needed to jumpstart the plans for the Realmbreaker, and her animus magic is the reason that the crew was not able to get there in time before it reached other planes. Ending on this image of Realmbreaker being jumpstarted by Nissa. With how the story has ended, do I wish that we got more of a full novel versus these smaller stories? And the real answer is I definitely don't want novels to ever come back. Novels propose a few problems. One, the process of writing the novel and the timeline of having a novel come out is not really congruent with how a magic set is developed and the story is developed as that magic set is made. So you run into situations where the cards of the set don't match up with the story that's being told anymore. This is how you get like Luca in the story is not as much of a douchebag as he is on the cards, and that by the time the book came out, they were changing who his character was on the cards. And stuff like Liliana on cards using the Chained Veil to rebel against Bolas, which doesn't happen in the story at all. Also stuff like Dak not getting a card, even though they killed him off. The other thing is that the publishing industry of a novel takes a lot more different incentives of how you want to tell that story, which then removes stuff because if you want it to succeed in international places, you can't have stuff like LGBTQ representation. Plus, you get less varied authors. So I get comments on this like all the time. So like, let's talk about Jace. Jace, for the very beginning of Planeswalkers, was at first positioned to be the main character Planeswalker. This is because blue is often, the most popular color in Magic. But due to Jace the Mind Sculptor breaking standard in half and older formats in half itself, and because of just like popularity polls in general, and also just the response to Jace was not as positive as they liked, so he stopped being the main character pretty early after that. On top of that, he's only really been the main character of the story a limited amount of times. He was a part of Zendikar, but not the main character. He was a main character of Return to Ravnica. He was the main character of Shadows over Innistrad, and he was the main character in Ixalan Block. And that's it. 3 sets. Seven sets. Because, blocks. Beyond that, Chandra has basically been the face of Magic for almost 10 years. If you look at all marketing materials, it's Chandra or Liliana and Teferi basically at the forefront. The walkers, which do I think are going to be the ones that get saved? So for those that we've been confirmed, we have Tamiyo, Ajani, Jace, Frasca, Nissa, Luca, Nahiri. We also have confirmation that Tybalt is completed. So of the ones here, I think that my personal hopes are that Jace and Vraska stay completed and have become the new face of Phyrexia. My alternative option is Nahiri does that, and then kind of takes her in her own direction. If we're going to pick one character here that was going to get 7 of 9, so cured by Malira to help kind of save the day, it's Nissa. I think that the fact that Nissa is going to be connected to Realmbreaker, the tree connecting everything as a power-up feature, also allows her to depower it. And if Malira was able to kind of do that, that fits. Her also vibe in general just feels like it fits to be a 7 of 9 character. And there's some really bad tropes with killing this off permanently that would happen if that happens, and that dodges that. So I think Nahiri is most likely to rebel. Jace and Vraska are most likely to become a power couple, continuing the vibes. And Nissa is the most likely to be cured of these. I do hope we get a Tybalt card. If Tybalt gets dacked, I'm going to be so mad. Now, I do think that it could be possible that they finish all of the colors, of course. We're missing a red and white one. I think that's possible. We'll never get those, but it'd be interesting to see if they do. We also don't have a blue-white or a black-blue one. In the trailer, they focus a little bit on Nico Eris in a way that makes me feel like the blue-white might complete Nico Eris to make that happen. My running theory is that white-black is going to be Soren. I don't have a great black-green option, though. What if it's the bug one? The bug one's name is Grist. I had to look it up. Blue-red, I really hope it's not Sahili. I really hope it's not Ral. I really hope it's not the Kenrith twins. If I were to pick one character to, like, get completed but then saved immediately before they fully fall, it is the Kenrith twins. I think blue-black is going to be Ashiok, especially after today's story about Tezzeret not being completed. And that pretty much covers everyone. That's kind of the main thing I think is going to happen. I do think it's possible we might just get repeats of characters that will fulfill some of these slots. I think we could get another Ajani card that could be the white one. I think we can get another Nahiri card that might be a mono red one. It's also possible that of the 5 characters that survived this story, some of them do get completed in the future. Koth, Tyvar, Kaya, and Kato are all still on Phyrexia, like literally like looking at Elishnorn last we saw them. So blue-black could be Kaido, black-green could be Tyvar. I would suck, though. I like them. Especially Kaido and Tyvar, like, this story more than anything sold me on both of them as great characters. When Kaido is like, I hope she's dead, just deadpan about Nahiri, just like, and he was right. He wasn't wrong. And Tyvar is just... He's Thor. He's Thor. He's the best Avenger character just in Magic. He's great. This good boy is Tyrannax Rex. He's a 4 green Phyrexian dinosaur, 8/8. This spell can't be countered. Trample, Ward, 4 haste, Toxic 4, classic green, fuck you control card. But he's also a throwback to one of my favorite draft strategies of all time. And that is the Scars of Mirrodin Dinosaur deck. This has actually been errated to be Dinosaur, which I love. Dinosaurs is my favorite type of draft strategy, which is a draft strategy that was in a draft format but wasn't realized to be good or was figured out later in the game. And basically, Scars of Mirrodin had multiple at common or uncommon, just really big green dinosaur boys. You had Molder Beast, Alpha Tyrannax, and Bellowing Tangleworm. And because green was so solid into infect in the format, people weren't really picking these non-infect creatures. And just because classically big 6-drop dinosaurs are not a thing that people are like looking to draft, if you prioritize just grabbing as many Mur as possible in the early game, you'd be able to use them to ramp into the dinosaurs that you could just snag at the end of each plot pack. And then the fact that the best removal in the format was artifact removal, you would just be able to win just because you'd be pumping out these 6/5 indestructible dinosaurs early. So in the manga art, Jace is pulling Luxior out of his chest. Why? Why did that happen? What was the story reasons? Why does he have Luxiors? And why is it in his chest? It's a simple reason. Just after Jace activated the Silex and it's about to explode, that is when the completion took full hold of him. Elsbeth didn't want Jace to use the Silex and stabbed him with Luxior to grab the Silex, and then this happened. I have a lot of videos on, like, Elsbeth isn't going to die, but this is what happened. Jace then falls down to a platform below, apparently dead. A bunch of shenanigans happen. Elishnorn shows up. Jace then just stands up, fine, pulls the sword out of his chest, drops it onto the floor. Kaido grabs Luxior, and then Jace goes to stand next to Elishnorn, and she's like, join us. And then they're like, no. And she's like, okay, Nissa, let's make this tree go crazy. So Kaido has Luxior. We don't know what happens to them. It kind of leaves off on a cliffhanger. Why in the world did Jace bring Luca on his strike team? Like, why did Jace think it was a good idea to bring Mr. Bonds with Animals to dominate them, evil man, to the Phyrexian plane? It's because Jace is insecure and maybe dumber than he is smart. Jace has never led a strike team assault mission. Even though he's like led kind of comparable stuff, but he feels like he's never done that. So he was like, hey, I know a guy who has done that, and I'm going to bring him along so that we have someone who has that experience. Because I don't feel like I have the capabilities of leading this crew by myself. And so he gets a guy. The one Planeswalker guy he knows who has that experience. It was dumb. Jace didn't need him. It got Nissa completed, which is probably why they failed, because Nissa was able to make the tree go faster than the strike team was able to get there to make it blow up. That's why I brought him. Insecurity and a lack of foresight. Will the Phyrexians connect to the meditation realm and link up with Nicol Bolas? Well, there are 2 people that know that Nicol Bolas is still alive. One of them is on the meditation realm with him. It's Ugin. The second one is a Phyrexian now. Now, Nicol Bolas doesn't remember who he is and doesn't have a spark anymore. But Jace is who took that memory out of him and maybe could put it back in him. Okay, so there's also like every person who helped trap Emrakul in the moon and knows how she got there is also Phyrexianized at this point. So between those two, the Phyrexians do have access to unlocking both and maybe even getting to both of them. I kind of hope they don't, to be honest, though. Let the Phyrexians have their own thing. I think it might be cute if one of them is used to like be a part of the victory condition against the Phyrexians. But I don't I don't see the Phyrexians not getting to the meditation realm and not just like instantly completing Bolus, and him just being a Phyrexian sounds boring. I do really love the idea that the reason that Jace went and got Luca is because Luca specifically reminded him the most of Gideon. And Jace was just like, I need a Gideon on this team. I don't have who's the closest thing that I have to Gideon? I was like, oh, that guy's a military man. He goes to war. He's got to be like Gideon. Let's get him. Plus, he has a cool pet. No one's an asshole that has a cool pet, right? It also makes sense because, like, Gideon is impervious to damage. So, like, he actually, I think, would be pretty good on Phyrexia because nothing could damage him and infect him. So Jason was like, oh, yeah, Gideon can handle it. Luca also can handle it. They're like the same guy. Luca is just Gideon, but with the puppy. So dumb. So dumb, Jace. I am now extra sad that Gideon is dead. Rip. Welcome to part 2 of why Nissa is the key to why the strike team failed to defeat Phyrexia. Previously on this video series, Jace put a strike team together. It's a backwards heist. He recruited them heist style. They all had useful skills, including Nissa, whose job normally is to make trees go vroom, and he's hoping that she is able to help destroy the tree. Now, one of the fascinating things about Nissa in this story is that she's completed off screen. The last we see of Nissa before we see her under control of Elishnorn, looking like this, so pretty far down completion, is immediately after the strike team first starts their expedition. Almost instantly, her and Luca are teleported to the hunter zone level, the hunter's maze. And with what seems like hours, Luca has already completed himself, exposed her to both Glissa and Vorniclex, and they're hunting her, and that is the last time we see her. But when the group went on this mission to begin with, they had a plan that made sense. We're going to blow the Silex up at the tree. We have time to get there before it's going to reach out of the plains. It's definitely not doing it yet. And the Silex is so dangerous, and we know that. So if the tree is reaching the other planes, we don't want to use it on the tree at that point because it'll kill everyone. It'll kill all those planes as well. That's the final conflict of all of the stories, is they get there. The tree is reaching out to all these other planes. They then decide pretty unanimously, other than Jace, who's about to be completed and lost the love of his life, that no, this is a bad idea. We got to figure something else. And Jace is like, no, I'm going to do this anyways. And that's why Elishnorn sacrifices herself. When I say Elishnorn, I meant Elsbeth. Elsbeth grabs the Silex and teleports herself to the Blind Eternities, and we don't know what's going to happen to her. She's going to become an angel. But team agrees. Jace does it anyways. Doesn't go well. But it's weird when you read it because you're like, wait, wasn't this a possibility? Did you not have a plan? And I think the reason is because they didn't even think the World Breaker was close to going to other places. They thought they had plenty of time. And the key to that puzzle is Nissa. Because as I said, Nissa's power suite isn't hurt tree, it's make tree go vroom. So by them all teleporting early, Nissa getting completed almost instantly, within hours of them getting there, Elishnorn is given enough time to use her to significantly increase the timeline to make it so that the World Breaker is already reaching other universes by the time the strike team even gets close to being there. And it's nick of time stuff. Like, literally, it's stated as they get there, like, Johnny and Tybalt are there to stall them just long enough for the tree to start reaching to other planes. Which is both why once they get there, like, oh, this failed. We can't use the Silex. And Jace is still like, no, we're going to use it anyways. And they make the snap decision then. They didn't have a plan for it because their plan was they should be able to get there without an issue. This is why the story ends on that image of Nissa being used to hyper-power the tree. Is it a weird storytelling choice to not lay some of this out? Maybe. Is it partially being saved as a reveal for the next set of stories? Maybe. Was it dumb to bring the almost god-tier level tree mage that can make trees go super powerful to the extremely infectious land of the Phyrexians? Yes. Alright, so why was the entire attack on Phyrexia such a disaster? First off, the plan. Phyrexia is about to launch their world tree. They call it Realm Breaker. It's built to connect their plane of extraordinarily infectious robot zealots to every plane in the multiverse, to infect those planes and to spread their grand completion. So how do you stop that from happening? Due to the infectious nature, war seems like a bad idea. The more bodies you throw at it, the more likely they'll be completed and you'll lose. And so Jace goes with the heist option, or reverse heist. They're going to drop off a bomb. They've gotten confirmation, be it from Koth and Malira, that the Realm Breaker is not yet at the point where it's spreading its thing to every universe, and they have time to be able to blow it up. And they've gotten a Silex from Karn to be able to do so. So Jace recruits Sneaky Squad. You got Kaido, who's sneaky and can also control materials to prevent infection. You have Nahiri, who is a nuke and also really good at controlling the artifice of the planet. Lithomancer, but basically the same thing. Jace, who can mind control all things around them to be invisible, super sneaky. Kaya, who is both sneaky and assassin and can turn intangible and therefore cannot be infected. Koth, who's been fighting the fight and is also immune and is a local. Elsbeth, also immune, also has access to a material called Halo that gives a somewhat reprise from being infected, and controls Luxiora Blade designed specifically to defeat Phyrexians. You have Tyvar, who can commune with different materials, including ones that make him immune. He has material control, and he also is the expert on the tree they're trying to kill. He knows what this tree is and how it works. You have the Wanderer, who is basically Kaido's best friend, also has a little bit of an understanding on unstable portals, which is tree related, and is a pretty powerful warrior, and has a relationship to the reality chip, which is one of the main tools they're using to complete Phyrexian, so maybe can be an expert there. She's a little bit of a weird one. You have Luca, who's really just all of Jace's insecurities in a person. Jace has never led a sneaky strike team, and so he wanted to find someone that has worked in the military and worked on military strikes before for assistance and support. He also has the ability to dominate wildlife, so maybe Jace thought that was useful. And then you have Nissa, which from the perspective of Jace, Nissa is good at tree things, and they're going to kill a tree. Normally, Nissa makes trees go vroom, but maybe she would be able to help destroy it. But she was the mistake. I mean, some of these others, like Luca, were a mistake, because once they get to the tree, they act weird. It's already reaching to other planes, meaning, oh wait, our plan to blow up this bull will destroy them, and that seems to be not part of the plan, or wasn't something they considered. In the meantime, Nissa, one of the main characters of Magic and one of the main green mages we've seen for years, was completed off-screen. And so my theory is that the plan would have worked if they had not brought Nissa, because and you're gonna have to like for part 2, it's in the comments, but that's part 1. What do we think would be worse, Phyrexian corruption or Eldrazi corruption? So, Eldrazi are interesting because there are 3 different ones and they kind of interact with people differently. Ulamog removes the life force of things until they are a skeletal coral-like structure. Kozilek can just make your brain warp into itself, eventually destroying itself. And Emrakul warps flesh into new reality. Eldrazi are the worst ones. This is terrifying. Most Eldrazi's aren't even the people that they were. If something exploded out of them, it's no. Versus Phyrexia, where all things are pointing to you actually keep most of your personality. Of course, there's the things that are just flesh amalgamations of each other, but there's definitely much more of a you are who you are, you're just now evil and devoted to the cause. Also, you get robot arms? Who doesn't want robot arms? Look how sick that is. He's got cool camera things coming out, Johnny looking swole. Luca got a whole cute little rhino dog that he got to pet, versus being erased from existence.
Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Do you believe that God exists?
No.
That's a contradiction.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No.
Okay. Explain to me how believing in God, but not believing that God exists, is not a contradiction.
Well, let me ask you, sir.
Do you believe in silence? You want me to shut up?
No, it's a question.
What kind of a question is that?
It's a yes or no kind of question.
Well, I just don't think that a simple binary yes or no is enough to describe the philosophical belief of the concept of silence.
It's funny how it works like that, huh?
I mean, for one thing, silence isn't a thing. I mean, it's quite literally the lack of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, silence is the space itself between things, the soundless sound before all sounds, and the soundless sound after all sounds.
Alpha and Omega, yeah.
And yet, although silence is an absence of experience, we can experience the absence itself.
Yep.
Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper, Flame Grill taste with per.
Alright, so you may be asking why in the most recent set and all the spoilers we're seeing a bunch of characters from different planes fighting Phyrexians. Are they all on Mirrodin? No, it's a pretty simple answer. Basically, Elishnorn, stole sap from the World Tree, which was on Kaldheim. It was the tree that connected all their little microplanes, but was able to make it into the World Breaker that connects all the real planes, or regular planes. So the Phyrexians at the end of that story are now able to invade. all of the planes, which is why we're getting characters teaming up that were normally enemies fighting the Phyrexians. This is on Zendikar, Dominaria, get Raga Montani are hanging out, or Innistrad. Sadly, that also means some of our friends are going to be completed. Goodbye, Heliod. Hello, Heliod the Warped Eclipse. To be honest, I'm not sad about this. God deserves it. Terrifying, though. They've completed a god. So obviously, like, you know, the dual land, basic land cycle is normally, like, not that exciting, but these ones are amazing just for the flavor text. The sky darkened and the seas turned to oil as the gods of Theros themselves fell to New Phyrexia. That's plural. The invasion tree's branches snaked through the streets of Otawara, turning Kamigawa's soaring city into a clouded nightmare. Having learned of New Capenna's halo supply, Elish Norn dispatched Atraxa herself to bring the word to heal. The royal Zendikar's plane-wide immune system rose in full force against the threat of Phyrexian infection. Except for Omnath. Why'd you do Omnath like that? The copper host brought a hideous mockery of new life to Amonkhet's death's cursed desert. I mean, did we do any mummies? Some tombs? Did you find some stuff? Stuff that maybe belongs in a museum? Deep in Eldraine's wild, strange, eye-like appendages twined among the vines and fairy lights. On the surface of Ixalan's vast tar pits, Phyrexian oil glistened and old bones began to stir. What's interesting about both of these is that these are the two next sets that we're going to, so Phyrexian's affecting them, so it's going to be interesting to see the aftermath of that. As oil seeped from Icoria's crystals, strange metallic mutations emerged in monsters all across the plains. Please, for the love of God, give me a toxic mutate card. I need more mutate cards. Are we getting mutate? Kaladesh's wondrous inventions and glowing aether were of utmost interest to Jingataxius and his chrome host. They better not kill Chandra's mom. Pia better not die in this. Last but not least, Sarah was a symbol of hope to Dominaria, so Norn defiled her temples with monuments to Phyrexia. Norn, she's working quick. This is a speedy monument. If they weren't evil, we could use them to fix our infrastructure. All right, so this is my boy Venser. Planeswalker, uses teleportation powers, and on the last time we were on Phyrexia, New Phyrexia, Scars of Mirrodin block, he sacrificed himself, teleporting his heart into Karn's almost completed body. That heart had been infused with Malira's powers, allowing him to heal himself, so Karn was able to heal himself, but that killed Venser. Venser is dead. Now I want you to pay attention to it. 2 blue, 2/2, flash, enters the battlefield, return target spell or permanent to his owner's hand. So creature counterspell but bounce, because he's blue. He's not trying to kill anything. So he just, returned to Phyrexia. And in a horrifying way, Venser is still there. This is his body. He's a corpse puppet. Not as good of a look. And though this card is cool, it doesn't really hark back to previous Vensers. Now, at the same time, in Dominaria United, there was Urtai Resurrected, who is literally just a black mana version of Venser. Why isn't this Venser?